Gotham City is in trouble. Call for Batman, you crazy warlocks. I'm Topsy the Elephant.
I'm Thomas Edison.
Now you guys.
Oh, that's your cue, Justin.
That's my cue. I'm the Electrocutioner. I'm Justin Corbett from the Comical Podcast and from How to Comic with Jonny and Yes.
Yeah.
I'm George Tripsis from Metal Geeks and Grey Bear Comics.
And you've just stumbled into yet another episode of the War Pod, where we like to transgress, transform, and cross-dress all the latest and greatest news from around the internet. But that is only half the battle today, because we have some very good friends on the show who are here to promote the second Kickstarter for the second issue of their comic book, Speak No Evil. Guys, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Thanks for all the
Doing
enthusiasm.
good.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, you're very happy. I'm happy to be here because you're so happy.
Yeah.
I'm always happy now that I have pills.
No, I would like to preface this. So Justin, we do a show together. Nobody knows. It's in limbo at the moment.
Yes.
But How to Comic.
Yes.
Is what we did for a while, for a few episodes. Hopefully some iteration of that's coming back. We're still in limbo, like I said.
So for the folks at home who don't know, tell us a little bit about your comic book, Speak No Evil.
Okay, well, Speak No Evil is the story of two brothers in the 1930s that find a cabin in the woods that used to be used by H.P. Lovecraft and Nikola Tesla for all kinds of weird experiments. And the boys find it and start playing with the equipment inside and accidentally open a portal to another dimension, letting a whole bunch of monsters through. And then instead of doing the right thing and trying to shut it down, they figure out a way to make money off the situation. And they start going from town to town saying, hey, we realize there's this monster problem. We can help you guys solve it with all this equipment that we found, but you're going to have to pay us first. So
absolutely.
It's very much a horror comedy. It's very adventure-filled. The brothers are very much representations of me and George. There's a lot of humor, a lot of really grotesque monsters and action and violence, and there's a lot of moving pieces in the story. So people that read issue 1 kind of got a little taste of it, but really
Yes.
issue 1 was the setup. Issue 2 is where things really kick off and get wild.
Mm-hmm.
And
things shoot out of your butthole.
yes, they do.
Is that a function of them fighting the ghosts? Is that or fighting the monsters? Like, does it have to be shot out of their posteriors?
They're not busters of ghosts. What are you talking about?
Well, it's just Lovecraftian. All things are going to come out of the portal. Fourth dimensional beings, freestanding vapors.
Is that what we're calling it? The portal?
Yes.
Well, there's multiple portals. The way it works basically is Lovecraft in the first issue was reciting an incantation that he had figured out would open the portal, and he was reciting a stronger version of the spell that allowed multiple portals to open, which is why you saw the witch come through, the big evil-looking bitch.
Hold on. Are we doing spoilers here?
Well, if you read issue
Yeah.
1, I think it's okay to talk about issue 1.
Okay.
Most
Yeah,
people
because
have
this
read
is
it.
all about plugging issue 2.
Right.
Yeah. The assumption is that
You've
everyone
already
in America and China,
has already enjoyed
yes,
issue 1.
specifically.
So they figure out they can use the machine to open and close
Yes.
these portals, and that's how they start going from town to town, because they're opening a portal, letting a small trickle of monsters through, and then closing the portal, and then saying, hey, look, we can help you guys, but we're not going to do it unless you pay us. They're really...
Shixtas.
Yeah. They're really kind of doing this self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing, which you'll see a lot of in our story.
But like in a really unscrupulous way.
Right, they're
And they're based
criminals.
on YouTube.
The kids are definitely criminals. They're con artists. They grew up.
Yeah.
They grew up on
part-
the streets, and yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, the part
Yeah.
of this that's really hitting me, like Zach was saying, you kind of said these characters are loosely based on yourselves. So I'm kind of wondering what kind of scams you pulled off on all the villages and towns that you grew up around.
I think they stole the Limburg baby, honestly, at this point.
Yeah, you think so?
I do.
We're not
Yeah.
that old, Zach. Sorry.
I did not know that.
I was always
I
a
thought
prank.
you were the guy who did all the research for the show.
Nobody researches for that show.
Don't research.
So, one thing I wanted to talk about as far as the comic book, the style is concerned, since we are sitting with both the authors, is how modern some of the verbiage is. What's the inspiration for that? Because everything they say feels like you're right out of this century. But you're hearing Nikola Tesla asking people not to, they're not being paid to be a bitch, things like that.
We wanted to.
Yeah, okay.
You want to feel that, George?
Yeah, sure. So there is some parts of their dialogue that is based in that 1930s, 1920s era, but it wouldn't be fun if you kept on reading that and it just sounded too elegant or just too old Englishly or anything
Overly
along those
proper.
lines. Yeah,
Yeah.
overly proper. And we wanted to, have fun with the comedy. It's very much a comedy book, and it would be kind of hard to keep ourselves in that little box.
I can relate because I tell you what, I did not like hearing Leonardo DiCaprio do Shakespeare because he's a modern actor. It was a modern setting, and then he was doing that trash language that nobody likes.
And we do kind of pepper in slang from the 30s into the book, but it's stuff that, for the most part, people still kind of understand or at least have heard before, like hogwash. You don't hear hogwash very often. It sounds extremely corny when anybody says it, but in the 30s, it was a pretty common slang phrase. So one of the boys says that. And we found some other ones that are a little more removed from modern dialect, but
Like Cranny Hunter.
are hilarious, like Cranny Hunter.
Cranny Hunter.
Which is a real thing from the 30s.
It's a real slang
Yes.
for a gun in the 30s.
What? When I think cranny, I think nook, and when I think nook and cranny, I think anatomy. So, how much research went into getting the character of Tesla right?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. We read a lot of stuff about Tesla. We're both, we both admire who the man was, and we don't want to take anything away from his legacy. But we did take a little bit of liberties because when Lovecraft and Tesla were alive at the same time, and they were for a very brief period, I think it was 6 or 7 years. Tesla would have been considerably older than Lovecraft. Lovecraft would have been in his 20s. And there's probably no chance in hell they ever would have met or ever gotten along because Tesla was...
Especially since Lovecraft never left his home.
Right, and he was a giant racist who kind of hated everybody. But Tesla...
Especially the Russians.
Yeah.
Yes.
Especially David Bowie.
Yeah.
That-
But we
That's just where
did a
my-
fair amount of research. I mean, we're not going to say that we're experts on either historical
No.
figure, but we know enough that we think that we're doing them justice.
Is there a chance that we will see Nikola Tesla fight Edison? Since we're bringing in these historical figures into the fold here, and they were such
Rivals.
yeah, such famous rivals.
Well, we discussed Edison briefly. There is at least one piece of dialogue that Tesla says later on as a slight to Edison, but we're not actually going to bring the character into the book.
He's not gonna be writing Cthulhu because that's kind of what I need.
I'm
you.
curious more. I'm a little bit curious about the actual processes using Kickstarter because I know, especially doing your first Kickstarter and the first one, there's a lot of anxiety that goes into that. Can you talk a little bit about the uncertainty of that, and then hopefully the confidence that builds going into your second Kickstarter?
Honestly, and I don't know if George feels the way I do, but the second one is way more stressful than the first one was.
I totally. Well, see, Justin was a lot more confident the first time around when we did the first Kickstarter. I was really nervous. I was like, man, we're 2 weeks out till this thing's over, and we're still not fully funded. And he's like, no, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. And I'm like, okay. And sure enough, we were. We were enough and then some. We were $200 over.
My feeling with the first one, and I think this is true with any first Kickstarter or crowdfunding project you do, is that your friends and family are all going to come out and support you, regardless of what the project is, regardless of if they give a shit about what you're doing. They'll toss you $10, they'll toss you $20 because they're your friend or they're your family. So for the first one, I felt very confident that I had established enough friends, from doing comical podcasts and from being at convention circuits and things like that, that all those people were going to come out and support us at least a little bit. And they did. And it was awesome. Issue 2 is a little bit different, though, because we're within the same year. We're 6 months removed from the first Kickstarter, and we're asking for money again. And for the people that either didn't enjoy the comic or don't care about comics at all, it's a hard ask for them to come back and support you again. And it's a little bit more nerve-wracking because you don't really know who's going to come out and back you and who's not.
Distribution after Kickstarter is always a key thing with stuff like this, at least from my perspective. Because a lot of times you'll hear about a Kickstarter, and even no matter how successful it is, you don't hear a lot about it afterwards. But you guys at least have the website, right?
Yeah, we do have graybearcomics.com. We should be on Comixology for the first issue pretty soon. They accepted us. We're through the processing. We're just waiting for them to tell us what day it's going to go up. So there's a lot of places you can get the first issue. Plus, we're at every convention in Houston, and we're going around to a lot of shops.
And we go into a lot of local shops as well.
Yeah, you've done a couple signings already, right?
Yeah, we did one at Uncanny Comics in Rosenberg and Dragon's Lair.
Yeah, the Dragon's Lair in Austin, Texas.
Next week this weekend we're doing 8th Dimension Comics in Houston, and then later this month we're doing Pop Culture in Houston.
Yeah. So if you live in Houston, there's like no excuse. Like you will see this comic somewhere.
Right. And if you don't live in Houston, there's always the website as an option, but honestly your best option for getting issue 1 is to back the Kickstarter, because we have issue 1 and issue 2 as rewards on several levels.
And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're watching it on the website, then you can always count on there being links below. Thanks so much for coming onto the show, and everybody out there.
Yeah,
not a problem.
Not a problem.
Everybody out there, I do highly recommend their book, Speak No Evil. You drop all the names right now, because I don't know all the last names, so drop them now. I don't have the
their names.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead, guys. It was George
Tripsis.
Yeah, there you go. You guys do it.
Justin Corbett. Samir Samau is our artist. He's from Brazil. And Chenlin Zhao is our colorist, and she's from China.
Yeah. Go out, support those guys. Go into Kickstarter. Check out the links below. You'll be able to find everything you need to not only buy the comic, but also check out these guys. Great things in the works. Hope to see you reading the comic soon. And on that note, I think it's time to say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Later.